Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For those of you who are newcomers and you weren't here last night, it may be a bit difficult to follow. But I'll give a small introduction, but we're following a text that Imam has written, Imam Khomeinit, rahmatullah alayhi. It's on intercession. And in this text there are many principles that are entailed and he covers. So the subject matter is intercession, but there are many surrounding issues that will be covered. And yesterday we went through some part of the text, and today inshallah we'll continue. To summarize, in this world and under the law here in England or in America, wherever you are, we see that between an action and its recompensation, between an action and its reward, or an action and its punishment, the punishment is arbitrary. And we define that as saying when a punishment of an action is arbitrary, it means there's no intrinsic, natural, real cause and effect relationship between the two. It's arbitrary, man-made. So speeding and being fined $20, there's no intrinsic cause-effect relationship between these two. We call that kind of punishment arbitrary. But some punishments are real. They're natural, they're real, it's based on cause and effect. And there's a very close relationship between the action and the punishment. For example, putting your hand in fire, the hand's going to burn, and it's really burning. The difference is with the arbitrary punishments, they're discountable. A police can give you a discount then and there, because that £20 was just, there's no real relationship with speeding and £20. So the policeman here can just say, okay, I'll forgive you, or give you a discount instantaneously. But with the providential, takwini, real forms of punishment, which are based on cause and effect, and the relationship between the action and the punishment, giving a discount has no meaning. If your hand is burning, a doctor can't say, okay, I'll give you a discount now. That burning has to take its course. So that, we're talking about punishment. One is arbitrary, one is real. The reason why this is connected with intercession is because if you believe punishment in the hereafter is arbitrary in nature, you may believe that Imam Hussein alayhi salam will come and say, you are one of my Shias, irrespective of what you did, you're forgiven. That Imam said and attacked. And I'm not going to repeat everything again. So he attacked that position, and he mentioned the consequences. So what is this intercession then? How is it going to happen? That was just an introduction. Let's continue. By no means will intercession, be applied on the excessively comprehensive scale that we have taken for granted. I.e., what have we taken for granted? That however much man sins and commits oppression, intercession will still be allocated to them. By no means. The reason we think like that is because we've taken punishment as in the arbitrary sense. And we explained the fallacies involved in such an argument. No, because intercession, shafa'ah, comes from shaf, which means being paired. When it's said that Allah's wali will intercede, it means that the light of wilaya appends to, joins with, the light of one who is seeking intercession. The one who's seeking intercession has to have a light. The wali has light. And these become paired. And then they'll be forgiven. Other attributes of Allah will take its course. But the wali is just a manifestation of Allah's attributes. Allah's intercession is manifesting in the form of different walis. Not that the wali is doing it independently. The light of the wali, it pairs up with the light of that person who's seeking intercession. This being paired, that is shafa'ah. So when it's said that when Allah's wali will intercede, it means that the light of wilaya joins with the light of one who's seeking intercession, and the two lights pair up and intermarry. And the former light, which is the light of wilaya, attracts and takes the latter light, the light of me and you who are seeking intercession, with him. But as long as the servant, me and you, carries no light, how can pairing or the marriage of the two lights be deemed feasible? See, that's the point here. It's all based on cause and effect for this attraction to happen. What is there for that light of the wali to attract when the person is full of sin? How is shafa'ah even deemed feasible? Is shafa'ah going to be realized in a manner towards which we have become complacent and self-conceited? Because we have taken it for granted that punishment is of the arbitrary nature. And therefore, someone will come, say, forgive, and everything instantaneously will be forgiven. That leads us to be self-conceited, thinking we're better than other members of other denominations. That leads to our complacency. In brackets, just as a mention that light, here, when there's talk of light, it's in this sense that shafa'ah is this being paired. It's the manifestation of one's acquired guidance in this world. It's quite an important point because the Quran is explicit. It says there's no shafa'ah in the hereafter. That means there's no shafa'ah to be acquired in the hereafter. But in other verses it says we have shafa'ah. It exists in the hereafter. The thing is, shafa'ah is going to manifest in the hereafter, but it's not going to be gained in the hereafter. It's going to manifest. What do you have to do in this world in order to have that shafa'ah manifested in the hereafter? You have to follow in action the guidance of the imams, for example, the prophets. And even if you say scholars, it's because those scholars follow the imams and the prophets. To the extent you follow in action the guidance of the imams, to the same extent shafa'ah will manifest in the hereafter. The guidance that you follow, that will create the light within you. The guidance that you follow. And then you're increasing your probability of being paired up easier. But if you're free from light because you never abided by the protocols of the imams, for example, you're not going to be paired. It makes no sense because punishment is real there. You can't escape it. Remember, you are your actions. It's part of you now. You can't separate from it. It's like the burning hand. You have to burn. Then the principle of shafa'ah, Imam continues, is indisputable and maybe undeniable. But the point pertains to the manner of its realization. it has been forwarded in a manner that cannot be accepted with assurance. The Quran has raised the issue with utmost complexity and has very ambiguously said, "Man dhal ladhi yashfa'u indahu illa bi'idhnih." Who is it that grants intercession without Allah's permission? Can intercession be realized without Allah's will? Of course not. The Imams don't have an independent right over any attribute of Allah. They're just mere manifestations of Allah's attributes. Their actions are Allah's actions. Now Allah wants to intercede, He does it through the Imams. He wants to forgive, He does it through the Imams. They're manifestations of all of Allah's attributes. Can intercession, like any other attribute of Allah, can it be realized without Allah's will? Of course not. Is it known when and at what occasion Allah will grant permission for intercession to take place? No, we don't know. It's not definitive. Then Imam says it may take 2,000 million years for intercession to, after 2,000 million years, whatever that means in the hereafter, only then the pairing, shafa'ah, the pairing of the lights, only then it becomes realized, not from day one. It may even not be granted. It's possible that you'll never have intercession. For sure, Allah's permission has to be granted, but only when the servant's light has the potential to accept marriage with the light of wilayah. For Allah's attributes to manifest for this person through the Imams, that person must have the potential to accept the light. But if the light of the servant is left under the manifold layers of darkness, one on top of the other, and the veils of concealed shirk and evil dispositions are surrounding him or her, under such circumstances, is their marriage with the light of Allah's wali even conceivable? And it's a rhetorical question. The answer is no. Look, we commit ourselves to the Sharia in order to execute the ethical traits, the noble ethical traits, with ease. And we commit ourselves to the noble ethical traits in order to get to the objective of religion, which is acquiring ma'rifat of Allah. Ma'rifat of Allah without the noble ethical traits is not possible. The noble ethical traits without the Sharia, the wajibat and the Muhammad, is not possible. So the enemy camp of Karbala, they all did the wajibat. They refrained from sins, but why did they suddenly fall like this? Doing the wajibat and the muharramat is not just the physical action which is important here. There's a lot of inner scaffolding which depends how you're doing the wajibat, why you're refraining from the sins. Look, when we say that the noble ethical traits are important, like forgiving, not holding on to grudges, or and other, showing generosity in more than that which is expected. Here, it has to be done in a manner, these noble ethical traits, that it enhances your tawheed. Look, even a kafir may have generosity. A kafir may, for example, forgive, but they're still a kafir. We don't call these traits the noble ethical traits. Noble ethical traits is intertwined with tawheed. Someone acquires the noble ethical traits as a result of their tawheed. If you've never studied tawheed in your life, even doing the wajibat and the muharramat, it doesn't qualify as righteous actions. You're bare. Noble ethical actions, if it's not done with the scaffolding of Tawheed, those noble ethical traits aren't even righteous. This thing of humanitarian and humanity, that's, I've said that, I think, mentioned it last night or today. Yes. Islam is a religion of Tawheed, not a religion of humanity. Humanity is a very last resort. It's never the first course of action. It's something where you're so useless now, at least have humanitarian values. So a non-Muslim may be very patient, much more than us, but they're spiritually void. Because that patience may be as a result of their upbringing, their parents, their hormone constitution, those things. It's not as a result of Tawheed though. But a Muslim, you may have a Muslim who's very angry by nature. But he or she has Tawheed. And through their Tawheed they become patient. For example, if someone steals your property, it's the Tawheedi fact that all wealth is Allah's that makes you patient with the loss of that property or loss of your health, wealth, offspring, whatever. Once the more Tawheed is incorporated within you, the easier you can commit yourself to noble ethical traits. The same applies to the wajibat. All these wajib actions, they're all traced back to Tawheed. It's just that you do the wudu as the wudu without understanding how it's traced back to Tawheed. You do the salats even, the physical actions, the movement of the limbs, without knowing how it's traced back to Tawheed. Well, if it's like that, it's going to be empty. You're not going to benefit. And the reality is, after 10, 20, 40, 80 years, your salat is just like when you started. Why, in a Western education system, when they're educating the child at 5 years of age, when entering primary school, and let's say 25, exiting university, look how much they've grown. Why? With knowledge, we grow. Or with our houses, the houses keeps on getting bigger and bigger. Family, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to religion now, Tawheed, nothing. You see, because we don't trace it back. Everything in Islam has to go back to Tawheed. Everything. The more you trace it back to Tawheed, every time you do salat, you fast, you speak, you have noble ethical actions, your Tawheed is getting enhanced. So, here, if you are surrounded and contaminated with evil dispositions or with concealed shirk, then you think a few wajibat and muharramat is going to save you? Okay. I mean, it's not abracadabra. It has to be done Tawheed fully. So here, the light is buried. Whatever light there may be, the concealed shirk, the evil dispositions, you're totally covering the light. Pairing up has no meaning. Maybe later, if at all. We are talking about divine permission here. Divine permission is not to be compared to my and your permission, which is arbitrary. When me and you, with our children, yes, we may arbitrarily forgive them and do certain things. That's for me and you. But divine permission, Allah's permission, it's based on cause and effect. It's not arbitrary like me and you. Divine permission isn't Allah just saying, I've granted you permission. It's a real, takweeni, providential, natural, cause and effect related permission. Furthermore, Allah's forgiveness is real. His mercy is real. Now look at how he's linking now. Forgiveness, mercy to intercession. Look. These are objective, real and external realities. Over there, in the hereafter, there is no room, place for arbitration. Meriting punishment there in the hereafter is a reality. You are your actions. And this punishment is one of the necessary outcomes of one's identity and one's soul's dispositions. You are your actions. Your meriting punishment is a result of what your soul did. And so the scorpions, the fire, etc. are all products of the soul and are non-pardonable by word. It's like when your dreams are a product of your soul. Someone says, don't dream whilst you're dreaming. It won't go away. Those dreams are in unity with you. They can't go away with someone outside you saying stop or I'll give you a discount. No, it'll take its course. The scorpions, the fire, but in dreams we wake up. But after death, there's no waking up. And that barzakhi reality starts. And you face your own actions, the hell that you created. After all, forgiveness vis-a-vis that soul whose identity and the necessary emanation is fire as a result of the sins that they did. And the establishment of fire has no meaning. Just to say to someone who by necessity, as a result of their actions in this world, only deserved fire because they just sinned, forgiveness in relation to them, it has no meaning. You can't conceive of it. What are you forgiving? It's a product of the soul. It's like the burning hand. What do you want the doctor to forgive you? The hand is burning. Nature has to take its course. The soul has to take its course. There's no magic there. There'll be no miracles there. You directed your own hereafter. Isn't forgiveness rather, so what is forgiveness then in the hereafter? Isn't forgiveness rather tantamount to the necessity of one's dispositions being realized on a par with its capacity and dictates, so that they actualize in their entirety via the embodiment of fire? Yeah, Imam is saying, what does forgiveness mean then in the hereafter? The fact that the doctor allows you to heal, that is forgiving. The fact that Allah now is allowing this burning to happen, because the burning will burn away those veils of concealed shirk, will burn away, and eventually that light within you may appear. This allowing of the embodiment and the embodiment of your actions being fulfilled in their entirety, there's a point here, in their entirety, I'll come to that in a minute. This is a kind of rahmah. It's a kind of forgiveness Allah has done. Because if this wasn't there, the light within you would never have appeared. Shafa would have been impossible. This is forgiveness in the hereafter. Now if you repented in this world, there would have been no need. This is in relation to unrepented actions. That soul that has become essentially darkened and contaminated, can it really be segregated from itself? No, it can't. We talked about that last night. Or rather, do we interpret forgiveness in such cases as the finalization and realization of one's merit of punishment? And the answer is yes. For the punishment to be actualized. That is forgiveness of Allah. Because if it wasn't for that, then you would have never attained to that pairing. The light within you would never have come out. Mercy too bears the meaning of the realization of one's meriting punishment. So the doctor may give you injections or do things with his scalpel and so on and so forth, but it's all mercy. Without that, the healing wouldn't happen or would have been delayed. If you ask, So what is this mercy and forgiveness of Allah mentioned in the Quran so much? Isn't it about Allah putting aside our sins? My reply will be, Imam says, we have previously said that Allah's forgiveness bears objectivity and reality. It's something real, cause and effect. The same goes for His mercy. It's all real, cause and effect, no arbitration. When we say we are all drowned in Allah's mercy, this includes the order of the cosmos with its waves of mercy. Water, air, intellect, Quran, ahadith, food, clothing, sun, moon are all mercy per se. All these are mercies of Allah. They're real. Each and every person is drowned in Allah's mercy right now based on their own merit, based on their own spiritual status quo. Some people, when it's sunny or when it's snowing or when it's raining, they may groan. But some people see it all as a mercy. That depends on how you interpret it. But everything around you, you're drowned in mercy. But now it depends how much of a recipient you're going to be. Over there too, in the hereafter, one's rahmah, mercy in the hereafter, it will be heaven if you did good deeds. Heaven will be given to you. Or, if you did bad deeds, the rahmah will be the termination and realization per se of the darknesses and merit of punishment based on one's self-acquired dispositions. As a result of the sins that you did, as a result of the veils of concealed shirk that surrounded you, here you have to undergo the manifestation of those actions that you did. And allowing that to terminate, allowing that to take its course, this will be rahmah for the sinners. Rahmah for the believers, or those who didn't sin, although most of us, we may have to undergo, na'udhu a bit of burning before we go to heaven. And the traditions will come to it. They say, in barzakh you're alone. Don't look to us. Meaning that shafa'a is almost impossible. It's not impossible, but it's almost implausible for the followers of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, for example. He says, look, in shafa'a you're alone. Don't look at despairing of lights. Because but we do the wajibat, we refrain from the muharramat, yes, but shirk, concealed shirk. So, rahmah for the sinners would be allowing this to terminate, this manifestation of your actions. Allow it to terminate and take its course, and you burning, you being bitten, whatever the punishment is. Every sin has its own punishment. That is rahmah. That is rahmah. It's rahmah, rahmah is of two types. The rahmaniyya type, universal mercy. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So, in the name of Allah, the universally merciful and the specifically merciful. But it's both merciful. Rahman and Rahim translated, it's merciful. Here, it's the Rahimi. When Allah allows you to burn, so that the light within you appears, this is Allah's Rahimi mercy. And heaven for the believers who have no sins, whatever, heaven is a Rahimi mercy for those people. Now look, although it's a marginal point, in la'an, when we do cursing, which means a cutting off of rahmah, when we do cursing in relation to those who have already died, for example, Shim, la'natullah alayh. La'an is a kind of dua. May Allah cut his mercy. When you do la'na on a person, like Shim, or you can do it, you can also do it for living people, the Netanyahus of the time. But has another meaning. That would be cutting off mercy of the Rahmaniyya time. But for those who have passed away, let's focus on that for now. When you do la'n, which is a form of dua, cutting off the mercy, you're asking for the cutting of Allah's Rahimi mercy. What's the consequence of that? The termination and the manifestation it'll be delayed. You want Allah's Rahimi mercy to be cut off. Rahimi mercy for sinners like Shimr would be this termination and realization per se of the darknesses and merit of punishment based on one's self-acquired dispositions. You're asking, no, don't terminate it, Allah. Don't let your Rahimi mercy continue. Don't do it. Allahumma al-an, for example. Yes. Although I've spoken about cursing the esoteric dimensions, but I think this was worthy to just point out here. This burning and therefore removal of the veils of darkness is forgiveness per se. You see? This is forgiveness per se in the hereafter. Sorry for giving the analogy, but sometimes the analogy may work. So the hand's burning, and the doctor's going through the healing and surgery. It's all painful, but it's all rahmah. Now someone inhibits the doctor, prevents the doctor from doing it. That's a punishment. You see? This is the meaning of traditions that describe the manner of qiyamah and the last moments of death and barzakh, i.e., man starts encountering the pains of the last moments, which is on a par with one's true merit acquired in this dunya, and punishment decreases over time via this affliction of sakaratul maut, and from there one enters barzakh, afflicted with the pressure of the grave. Look, we have traditions that even before one passes away, a true believer who has a few sins unrepented for, Allah gives that believer burdens so that those unrepented for sins that the believer may have forgotten, the believer may have done it 30 years ago and he genuinely forgot it. We have some traditions that sometimes Allah reminds the believers of a sin that they've done many years ago. That's a rahmah, so that they can repent. But let's say there were sins that one didn't repent and they forgot. There are certain things, burdens, which will forgive that believer of those sins. One is the loss of wealth. One is the loss of health. And one is the loss of offspring. And we had a neighbor where we live in Qom. He was a teacher. And he was different to everyone in the masjid. He wouldn't speak, futile talk. And he was a teacher, had a halal living. And in the last year of his life, he lost all these three. And then we realized he was a very true believer. But it was too late now. Yes. Only in retrospect one understands. Yeah. So, but some people, even if when they undergo the loss of health, wealth and offspring, they may have sinned so much that there's still a bit of burning of those veils left. The veils of darkness. And so, one by one, sakaratul maut, then barzakh, then qiyamah, then the 50,000 stations in qiyamah, we don't know when they're going to have all their veils removed. But the philosophy is for them to have their veils so that the believers can then go to heaven. Even if you're predominantly a sinner, but you had some faith, eventually you will go to heaven.